Let's go.
The truth set you free.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Age of universal deceit. Telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Welcome to another Mafia Monday. From the pineapple to the Big Apple, from Maine to Spain. Let me know where you are viewing from. Thank you so much for joining me here. I am your host, Tony D. This is the Veritas Machine, where the proof meets the truth, baby. 1, 2, 3. I wrote this. All right, let's go. What do I look like, a clown? I make you laugh. Funny? How am I funny? How am I so? What makes me so fucking funny? That's what. Henry, I think you'd fold under questioning. Hey everybody, how you all doing? Look, I'm Tony D. I'm your host. Welcome to another episode of the Veritas Machine. We are on a Mafia Monday, where we're going to introduce you this evening to the real Goodfellas. You know the real Goodfellas. Ever since I was young, I always wanted to be a gangster. Well, that's what we're going to see today. We're going to meet Paulie. We're going to meet Tommy. We're going to meet Henry. We're going to meet everybody, but we're going to see actually who these guys were, their records. That's right. Ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. You want to know why? It was out of respect. Well, welcome everybody. Let me know where you are viewing from. Make some friends in there. Make sure you smash that like button. Hit subscribe. If you are not yet subscribed, share this out. People love mafia stories. I hope you stick around. All right. Yeah, I did have something going on earlier today. I'm watching Will's finish up in the show. So thanks a lot, Will, for the kick over here. And welcome to all the Meat Hammer Nation. We're going to get right into this video. We are going to... What was that? Is that some fucking lightning or something? Something just took me out of the screen share. All right, let's see. Let's see what we can fuck with next. Sorry about that, guys. Always seems to be something when I'm loading the screen here. All right. Well, here we go. I think I shared the sound. Hold on. Let me just make sure. I hope you like my glasses tonight, my shades this evening. A lot of people have been asking me why I wear shades. Well, first of all, it's none of your fucking business, but I will tell you. I have a little bit of a tumor under my eyes. Another tumor. And I'm going to be getting it removed. So, it's not very pleasant and it fucks with my eyesight. And it's not fun, but this is the deep state trying to affect me and trying to stop me from doing what I got to do here on Mafia Monday. So here we go. I got to share it again. Let's get right into this one. This one is a lot of fun. You guys are going to enjoy this. Let's say hello to the boys of Goodfellas.
Goodfellas was an infamous crew of the Lucchese crime family, under the leadership of Paul Vario, that included members such as Jimmy Burke, Henry Hill, and Thomas D. Simone. Thomas D. Simone, also known as Two Gun Tommy, was an Italian-American mobster associate of the Lucchese crime family. He was a grandson and nephew of Los Angeles crime family bosses Rosario and Frank D. Simone, respectively. He was married to a woman named Angelica, nicknamed Cookie, but also had many mistresses, including famous 1970s supermodel Teresa Ferrara.
Joe
In
Pesci.
the 1990s film Goodfellas, the character Tommy DeVito, played by Joe Pesci, is mostly based on D. Simone. Tommy.
Hey, if the cool thing about the surgery is if it gets really well for a little while afterwards, I'm gonna have to wear a patch over my eye for like 3-4 weeks. But yeah, I am Italian. The fun thing is that if I can't see out of that eye, I get to wear the patch all the time. you gotta make lemonade out of lemons, my friends.
He had a reputation for brutality, cruelty, and violence. He was known as a vicious killer.
Now the big joke around is like, okay, we'll see.
He was widely feared for his use of extreme violence, and also known for killing people for the smallest reasons. He was regarded as a psychopath who enjoyed what he did. Henry Hill stated that Tommy was a homicidal maniac and a cold-blooded killing machine.
Now, do you remember when Tommy had the head in the vice? Wait, was that Casino? I get mixed up. He always plays a psychopath. Maybe I got a little mixed up.
Henry also said Tommy enjoyed it like a hobby. It was his favorite thing to do, and he scared lots of guys. He scared the scary guys. Hill also stated that he's seen him kill over 10 people. Every time he'd kill somebody, he would put a notch on his pistol or his shotgun. Hill said he once
I think me having a patch over my eye would be the best thing for my podcast ever. It was Casino, right? Yeah. Okay. What can I say?
Counted over 20 notches on Tommy's pistol. That's how vicious, wild, and crazy Tommy was. He knew how to kill and he was good at it.
I am a little tired.
Henry Hill grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
This is Henry Hill. He is the author and writer of Goodfellas. You've probably seen him. He was taken into the witness protection program. He is somebody who actually was, just hanging out in L.A. They could have got him at any time, but he didn't give a shit.
Henry Hill Sr. was an Irish-American electrician, and his mother, Carmela Hill, was a Sicilian American. Henry and his 7 siblings lived together in a small house in East Brooklyn. From an early age, he admired the local mobsters that socialized across the street from his home, who included Paul Vario, a captain in the Lucchese crime family. In his early teens, Hill began running errands at Vario's cab stand, shoe shine stand, and pizza shop. Paul Vario was a powerful and longtime captain in the Lucchese crime family. He served as the underboss and consigliere in the early 1970s.
Paulie didn't have to move for nobody,
but felt it was too much responsibility, and a couple years later was able to resign under Lucchese boss Carmine Tremonti's approval. Paulie was a maternal cousin of Colombo crime family consigliere Johnny Otto and his brother, mobster Stevie Otto. Vario ran a very large crew of sophisticated thieves, criminal masterminds, and ruthless killers. Additionally, he was thought to have held the position of acting underboss of the Lucchese crime family, just prior to the conviction of then-mob boss Carmine Tremonti, and before Anthony Corallo became the official leader. Under the rule of Corallo, the underboss rank went to Salvatore Santoro. For over 30 years.
So you have these guys, and this is around the time of, Carmine Persico, and we're going to get into next week on Mafia Monday. We are either going to do the California Mafia with Nancy Pelosi, which I think is going to be really interesting, or we are going to do Vinny the Chin Gigante.
Paulie was one of the richest and most powerful gangsters in America. The Vario crew stole from the neighboring JFK International Airport through hijacking. Prior to 1963, the airport was known as the Idlewild Airport and was also then used as fountain for stealing. Besides the Vario crew, a well-known Gambino crew, led by Carmine Fatico and later John Gotti, also exploited the airport for their own criminal gain. According to former Vario associate Henry Hill, the airport was like...
Now, here's a fun little fact that people don't know. You see the character Tommy in here, right? Tommy was actually killed by John Gotti. John Gotti's crew killed Tommy. At the very end, remember in Goodfellas when he's supposed to be made and he gets killed? That was John Gotti's people that did that sanctioned that told him that, because they whacked a boss. They whacked a boss in another crew, and they didn't go. They whacked the captain in another crew, and they didn't go to his boss and get that cleared. So, Pelosi's dad and all that. We're gonna get into that next week.
The crew's personal bank. Because of his influence over the cargo haulers union, Paulie could often threaten with a labor strike in order to turn.
I take the late shift. Like I say, I'm the David Letterman to the Johnny Carson here. I'm the late show.
An investigation away. During the 1980s, the FBI would listen in with hidden microphones as fellow Lucchese family members and associates boasted, "We own JFK," an obvious testament to the tremendous power and influence Vario wielded. Illegal gambling, extortion, numbers racket, labor racketeering, prostitution, pornography, bookmaking, and loan sharking were also staples for Poli's crew and associates. It was believed that any form of gambling, most commonly the numbers game, bookmaking or underground
Most of these
casinos
guys were
that
degenerate
operated in the
gamblers,
Brownsville section of
mind you.
Brooklyn was run by a Vario.
So was my
Criminals,
father.
drug dealers, bookmakers, or loan sharks wishing
That's
to
a
operate
story
in
for another
Vario's
time.
area had to pay him and his brothers a huge portion of their earnings, at least 30%. He and his brothers owned and ran many legal businesses, including labor unions, real estate, clothing suit and tuxedo stores, horse race tracks, churches, movie theaters, junk and scrap yards, flower shops, Italian restaurants, pizza shops,
everybody doing?
nightclubs,
Hello,
laundromats
hello.
and dry cleaners, hotels, bars and bakeries, barber auto and ice cream shops, liquor and convenience stores, also gas stations, taxi services, car
Jimmy the
dealerships,
Gent.
carpentry, electrical, engineering, plumbing companies, and trucking companies. He also had a hand in the construction companies, waste management companies, fish markets, meat markets, weapon shops, and cab stands all over New York and across the United States, from which he would conduct business most of the time. His brother Vito ran the Euclid Avenue Cab Company and Presto's Pizza Shop. At his height, Poli was earning over $30 million a year. He was raking in an enormous amount of cash for the Lucchese crime family, which earned him major respect and admiration from the commission. Vario and his brothers, along with their criminal associates, operated in Brownsville. Both of his most popular cab stands and pizza shops were located in close proximity and were popular hangouts for the crew. In the early 1970s, Vario became a multimillionaire and was considered one of the richest and most powerful people in America until his conviction. According to Henry Hill, Vario was an extremely powerful man who controlled dozens of labor unions in New York and had a lot of prominent politicians
That's
in his
Big
pocket
Paulie.
all over the country. Paulie was extremely intelligent, sophisticated, perceptive, intuitive, and astute. He was always
There's Petey, this is Paulie, this is Marie. That's Marie right there. That's Petey, that's Paulie, that's Petey, that's Marie, Petey, Paulie, Teresa, Anthony over there. We got Anthony. We got Tony and Petey and Paulie Jr. and Petey and Paulie.
very careful, low-key and secretive. He never used a phone because he always believed it was too easy for law enforcement to hear his conversations. He never would speak of anything illegal to anyone, not even his trusted associates or his brothers, and he would always check every one of his companies and businesses for FBI electronic devices. Vario always made it a huge priority to limit his exposure to potentially detrimental conversations and discussions, such as
Payphones.
wiretaps, bugs, and electronic
Remember,
devices.
he always used the
Paulie would
payphones.
always turn up his radio very loud to neutralize FBI wiretaps. He would even use hand gestures, write it down on a piece of paper, or just nod his head yes or no. Whenever an associate would bring up something illegal to Vario, he would not verbally respond. Sometimes, depending on the associate, he wouldn't even acknowledge them. He was a very intelligent, perceptive, and sophisticated mobster, and never let his guard down for any reason. Vario was also fiercely loyal to the mob and totally believed in the oath of the mafia. His soldiers and underlings were completely loyal to him. They were as loyal gets. They wouldn't betray him for nothing or anyone. They would kill for him in a heartbeat. In the early 1970s, Paulie was a membership director for mob boss Joseph Colombo's Italian-American Civil Rights League. However, he rescinded his membership and withdrew all support when it became apparent that the relentless accusations Colombo was making against the FBI and US government about racism and anti-Italian discrimination were attracting attention. Paul Vario was a married man with 3 sons, all of whom became involved in their father's dealings in one. Tommy was introduced to the Vario
There's an
crew
audio
in
glitch there. That's fucked up.
1965. Henry Hill said
Sorry
in
about
Wise
that.
Guy,
Go get
Jimmy
your
Burke
shine
came by the
box.
cab stand one day with a skinny kid who was wearing a Wise Guy suit and had a pencil mustache. That guy was Tommy D. Simone. He was one of those kids who looked younger than he was, just because he was trying to look older. Jimmy had been a friend of Tommy's family for years and wanted Henry to watch out for Tommy and teach him the cigarette business. Jimmy the Gent was an Irish gangster, hitman, and associate of the Lucchese crime family. Burke was a well-respected associate and is most famous for masterminding the LaFonza heist in 1978, which was at the time the largest robbery in American history. An estimated $6 million in cash and $2.8 million in jewels were stolen. Investigators later determined the crime was planned and organized by Jimmy the Gent.
Fucking shine box. See, hold on a second. Something happened there with the store. We're getting a little. Here's what's happening. All right. YouTube brought my page back. I still feel like I'm getting a slightly, deep dicked, if you know what I'm saying. But it is what it is. Just like, share, all that stuff. Basically, they took off all my notifications. I'm basically starting over. No big deal.
Burke and Catherine Burke. Catherine Burke was the woman who married Bonanno crime family member Anthony Indelicato in 1992.
Mullet,
Jimmy
if you
Conway,
want that
a character in the movie Goodfellas
topic,
played
just
by
put that
Robert
in the
De Niro,
comments. All right,
is
guys.
based on Jimmy
Anytime you
Burke.
want to see any other mafia content, or if you want to know about some of the guys or some of the rituals or some of what they do, let me know. All right, I'll bring you the information that you want to know. If you want to know something extra about the mob, you want to know something, because take care of you.
For over 2 decades,
Fuck
Jimmy was
outta
the
here.
wealthiest and most powerful Irish gangster in America. He is considered by the FBI to be the most powerful and most dangerous Irish gangster of all time.
Wow.
By
Whitey
1977, he
Bulger.
was already a multi-millionaire. His extraordinary wealth and power continued to grow to the point where he became one of the richest and most powerful gangsters in America. Even though there were a lot of Italian mobsters that were wealthier and far
Jimmy
more
the
powerful
Gent.
than Jimmy, he became the first non-Italian that earned the respect of a made man in the American mafia. The 5 families of New York respected him. They looked at Jimmy as an equal. He has also been highly respected by law enforcement for being a criminal genius and for his ingenious abilities to make enormous amounts of money in such small periods of time. He has even been incredibly respected as a legend by Italian mobsters and even by mafia bosses all over the country. He has been described by mobsters all over New York as a true gangster. As a teenager, Burke got in trouble with the law and spent a considerable time in jail. In 1949, at age 18, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for forgery as he passed counterfeit checks for mobster Dominic Cersani. Behind bars, he mixed with a number of mafia members and other criminals of all nationalities in New York. Jimmy stood 6'5" and weighed over 270 pounds.
Jesus.
He petrified men due to his intimidating size
I
and
didn't
fearsome
realize
reputation
that.
as a mafia
Robert De
enforcer.
Niro is not
He
that
had an
big.
evil, ice-cold stare. If there was just the littlest amount of trouble, he'd be all over you in a second. He'd grab a guy's tie and slam his face into the table before the guy knew he was in a war. He'd go to war with anybody, no matter who they were or who they were with.
I've
Jimmy
done
Burke
that a
was
couple times. The
absolutely
problem is
fearless
that I was
and
in a
wasn't scared of
7-Eleven.
anybody. He could be the nicest
Can't
guy
do
in the
that.
world or your worst nightmare. It is alleged that he committed a number of murders, but no victims were ever named. Burke is rumored to have murdered and dismembered an ex-boyfriend of his bride because he was being a nuisance. Jimmy was the mentor of Thomas
Because
D.
fuck
Simone,
him.
Henry Hill and Angelo Seppi, who were all young men in the 1960s and carried out jobs such as selling stolen merchandise for Burke. They eventually became part of his crew and worked out of South Ozone Park, Queens. They also set up shop in East
Oh,
Brooklyn.
Big Ange,
The
yeah.
crew helped Burke with the hijacking of delivery trucks, armed robbery, burglary, drug and
Let me tell you something, honey. All right. Let me tell you something about the mob that I knew about being a mobster. All right. Now just hold on. Let me move my tits so I can talk to you.
weapons trafficking, cigarette smuggling, auto theft, loan sharking, protection rackets,
Maron.
bookmaking, the dealing and fencing of stolen property, extortion, fraud, and contract killing.
Oh, I want to let everybody know that it's Monday, and on Mafia Mondays, I make meatballs on Mafia Mondays. All right. So I just want to let everybody know that I make meatballs on Mafia Mondays. Maybe I should maybe next week when I make the meatballs on Mafia Monday, maybe I should bring them on here and maybe, I don't know. It's not a fucking, I'm not a fucking mukbang. All right. I'm not a mukbang, but I would be tempted to eat some of my meatballs during a lovely episode of Mafia Mondays with yous. What do you think of that?
According to Hill, Burke would usually give $50 to the drivers of the trucks they stole, as if he were tipping them for their inconvenience. This led to his nickname Jimmy the Gent. He owned a bar in South Queens
Jimmy
called
the
Robert's
Gent.
Lounge. It was a favorite hangout of Jimmy and his crew and other mob associates. He ran a loan shark and bookmaking operation that was based at the bar and high-stakes poker games in the basement, of which he would receive a cut of the earnings. Jimmy also owned a dress factory, also in South Ozone Park, Queens, which kept him awash in laundered money. While not a mafia member, Burke had one important mob member as a friend and associate, Captain Paul Vario. In 1960, Henry joined the army and was stationed at Fort Bragg, near Fayetteville, North Carolina. For 3 years, he was a member of the 82nd Airborne Paratrooper Unit. However, he maintained contact with Vario.
Listen, all right. Sauce is just fucking sauce. It's just tomato, maybe a little basil, maybe a little garlic, but it's San Marzano tomatoes. To me, this is just to me. This is my opinion. You guys correct me if you think I'm wrong. Sauce is just tomatoes. Gravy, Sunday fucking gravy, has everything in it. Everything that is in the fridge that has been there, that is meat, that is a protein, that is in the freezer. That's the way my family did it. Sunday gravy, everything went in that motherfucker. I'm talking the lamb, the chicken, what else? Meatballs, sausage, sausage. You gotta love a good sausage. Then my grandmother would make focaccia. I remember I came home one time, I'm frying on fucking acid. And it's like 4 in the morning, and my grandmother was awake, and she was making like fucking Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner or something. I'm frying my fucking face on acid with my grandmother right there, and I'm frying on the acid, and she shows me how to make the focaccia bread. And she had like coffee, you know, she had espresso and everything, and I had to pull my shit together, yo. She kind of thought something was up because I'm just like. Fucking shit's like melting, and anyway, it was a long time ago. It was in the 80s.
And his other friends in New York throughout his enlistment. Henry continued to hustle while in the service, selling extra food, loan sharking salary advances to
Karen, that was all the money we had. Karen, that was $50,000. Karen.
His fellow soldiers, and selling tax-free cigarettes. Before being discharged, he spent 2 months in a military stockade for fighting and stealing a sheriff's car for a joyride. In 1963, he returned to New York, beginning the most notorious phase of his criminal career. Henry, along with Jimmy and Tommy, plus others who were in Jimmy's crew, carried out the Air France robbery in 1967 and the huge La Fonza heist in 1978.
Hey,
they also were the cause of numerous mob-related murders during that time. In 1965, Henry met his wife, Karen. The two first eloped to North Carolina, where they had a large wedding, to which most of Hill's gangster friends were invited. After the birth of their 2 children, they rented an apartment in a 2-family home in Island Park, New York in 1969. Karen was said to be very close to the mob life. When she was asked about such mobsters as Tommy DeSimone, she said that he was infamous for his violent temper. Tommy's sister was quoted as saying her brother's teenage years revolved around boxing, lifting weights, smoking cigarettes, and beating the mess out of the punching bag he kept in the spare room. He had a short fuse and an animalistic appetite. He would drink almost a gallon of whole milk a day. His only other childhood hobby was collecting different kinds of pocket knives that he kept in an old cigar box under his bed. While playing pinochle with Joseph Iannuzzi and Tommy Agro, he would throw darts at...
It's not Tommy Agro, it's Tommy Agro. Okay?
The other players when he...
These AI voiceovers, I like them a lot, but sometimes they just mispronounce it, like especially Italian words. They just are fucking it all up.
Started losing. During the 1960s, Tommy and fellow associates Henry Hill, Joey Allegro, and Stanley Diamond would go on regular hijackings. While hijacking, Tommy would always carry his gun in a brown paper bag. Walking down the street, he looked like he was bringing you a sandwich instead of a .38, Henry said. Tommy committed what is believed to have been his first murder on March 15, 1968, at the age of 18. He was walking down the street with Henry when Tommy spotted Howard Goldstein, a passing pedestrian, a random stranger unknown to either of them. Henry recalls Tommy turning to him and saying, "Hey Henry, watch this." Tommy yelled, "Hey cocksucker," pulled out a pistol, shot and killed Goldstein. In 1970, Henry Hill said they threw a welcome home party at Robert's Lounge for Billy Batts, who was a mobster with the Gambino crime family and also a longtime friend of John Gotti. Batts had just been released from prison after serving a 6-year term for drug possession. Henry states in Wise Guy that Billy saw Tommy and asked him if he still shined shoes, and Tommy took this as an insult. He also said that Billy Batts provoked Tommy because he wanted to impress some mobsters from another crime family.
Now go get
go get
your shine box.
Down, you motherfucker, you motherfucker.
Tommy leaned
you.
over to Henry Hill and Jimmy Burke and said, "I'm gonna kill that man." Henry saw in Tommy's eyes that he was serious about it. A couple of weeks later, on June 11, 1970, Billy Batts went over to the suite owned by Henry in Jamaica, Queens, to go drinking with Tommy's crew, which including Henry, Tommy, and Jimmy. Later that night, Tommy took his girlfriend home, and Jimmy started making Bats feel comfortable. 20 minutes later, Tommy arrived with a .38 revolver and a plastic mattress cover. Tommy walked over to him at the corner of the bar and viciously started attacking Billy Bats. Before he was attacked, Jimmy tightened his arms around Billy, and he was pistol whipped with a
No, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Think you insulted him a little bit. Think you insulted him just a little bit. Just a little bit. Excuse me. You insulted him a little bit. Just a little bit. No, drinks are on the house. No drinks around the house. Excuse me. You insulted him a little bit. Little bit. Oh, sorry. These glasses. It's
38
fucking
revolver.
hilarious. I love this movie. Well, you know, when a girl tells me she hasn't seen this movie, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Bats
First, A, and B, sit down. You aren't leaving until you watch this movie.
was so inebriated from
And
heavy
then like
drinking,
6 or 7
he
other
failed to make
movies that
any
they don't
effort to
watch. So
defend
the
himself.
references are just
The real reason for the murder was said to be
lost.
that Jimmy had taken over Billy Bats' loan sharking
Really
business
fucking
while he was
annoying.
in prison. According to Henry, Billy Bats had been complaining to Joe Gallo about getting back
like if you date me, first of all, you're dating me, which is good enough. Secondly, you have to know these movies. How am I going to make any jokes? You damn right, Lynn. Don't fuck with Italians.
this racket. Not wanting to return the business to Billy, Jimmy decided to eliminate him instead. After Bats was attacked and presumably killed, the three placed his body in the trunk of Henry's car and drove away from the bar. While they were driving, the car had a minor collision with a van on the Van Wyck Expressway in Queens. Soon after the collision, the men started hearing thudding sounds from the trunk and realized that Bats was still alive. They then stopped at Tommy's mother's house to collect a knife, some lye, and a shovel. She made them coffee, they chit-chatted, and had some breakfast, while Billy Bats was still in the trunk.
So, hoof.
Upon arriving at
The
an
hoof.
isolated piece of land in Connecticut, owned by a friend of Jimmy's, the three mobsters opened the trunk of the car and
Ma,
finished
stop
Bats
painting
off.
religious
Once he
pictures.
died, the men buried him under a dog kennel. Hill said that Jimmy and Tommy didn't actually shoot him, they just stabbed him 30 or 40 times. 6 months after the murder, Jimmy found out that his friend sold the Connecticut property in order for homes to be built. Jimmy ordered Henry and Tommy to exhume his body and dispose of him elsewhere. In Wise Guy, Hill said the body was eventually put in a mechanical compactor at a New Jersey junkyard. At the time of the murder, Billy Bats was 49 years old and was a respected and feared made man in the Gambino crime family. Murdering a made man without the official consent of his family's leadership was an
See?
unforgivable offense in the
Can't do
Mafia
that.
Code of Omerta,
What's up,
especially
Shady?
by a rival family and a mere associate such as Tommy. DeSimone's third known murder was a young man named Spider, who was
Spider.
serving as a bartender at a card game, where he and Tommy had an argument when he forgot to bring Tommy his drink.
Hey, go fuck
This
yourself,
resulted in
Tommy.
Tommy pulling out a handgun and demanding that Spider start dancing to dodge the bullets. Tommy shot him in the foot when he refused.
I thought
A
you
week
said you
later,
wanted to drink
when Spider
Spider.
was again serving drinks, now in a full leg cast, Tommy started to tease him about his wounded foot.
Hey, you fucking step and fetch it. Hey.
Spider replied, "Why don't you go F yourself, Tommy?" After a stunned silence, a delighted and impressed Jimmy, having now developed a respect for the kid for sticking up for himself. Jimmy gave Spider some money before jokingly teasing Tommy, who hadn't said or done anything in retaliation, about going soft. Tommy, in his usual way, took the teasing seriously and lost his temper, fatally shooting Spider 3 times in the chest, angrily demanding of Jimmy if that was good enough for him. Jimmy and Henry were furious with Tommy's lack of control.
Oops.
Jimmy yelled, "All right, you dumb uck, since
dig
you're
the
going to be a
fucking
big
hole.
FN wise guy, you dig the hole."
I'll dig the
Jimmy
fucking
made
hole.
Tommy bury Spider's body
It's
in
not
the
the
cellar
first
by
fucking hole I
himself.
dug. I'll dig
Hill
the fucking
stated
hole.
that, after he saw this, he was truly convinced that Tommy was a total psychopath. It is believed that Spider's
I'll
body
dig the
was
fucking
subsequently
hole.
moved because it was not found in the location later gave to authorities. There is also recent speculation
Any lines that you guys hear that are appropriate during these times of what's happening here, you guys, come on. I know you know the movie, so put them in the chat. Put lines there. I dig a fuck.
as to
The
whether
first
Spider even
fucking
existed,
hole
as
I
the
dug.
police never found a birth certificate, family, or even friends,
don't have any
indicating
lime.
that Hill possibly made the story up,
He
or the
needs
most
lime.
popular when talked about, that he was a worker here illegal. His fourth murder, according to Hill, occurred when Tommy and another associate named Stanley Diamond got carried away after being asked to rough up a witness to a
Well, good
robbery.
morning.
After a truck heist, a foreman had refused to allow Jimmy to unload the cargo of a hijacked truck in
believe
his
it's
warehouse
1:30
and
in
vehemently
Ireland.
protested because they had no union cards. Jimmy attempted to reason with the man, who stood his ground and refused to be intimidated. He later sent Tommy and Stanley Diamond to the man's house in the boondocks of New Jersey, with instructions to threaten and rough up the man to ensure he would cooperate with Burke in the future. Tommy and Stanley Diamond, angry and so worked up about having to drive all the way to New Jersey, ended up beating the
A
man
lot
to
going on
death.
in Ohio. A lot going on in Ohio.
Tommy's fifth known murder occurred when Jimmy ordered the murder of his best friend, Dominic Remo Cersani, who became an informant. He was going to set Jimmy up in a cigarette hijack for Burke to get arrested. Jimmy got suspicious about Cersani and later
Motherfucker.
found out from one of his friends in the DA's office that Cersani was talking to the
Shut them a
NYPD
little bit.
and that they were going to arrest
Excuse
Jimmy
me.
on a truck hijacking charge.
Just a little
Tommy and
bit.
Jimmy killed Remo that same week. The pair
Right.
met him at Robert's lounge and said to him, "Let's take a ride." Tommy strangled him with piano wire. Henry Hill said the guy put up some fight. He kicked and swung like crazy before he died.
He kicked through the
Jimmy had his
windshield.
body buried behind Robert's lounge. Tommy also killed Gotti protege Ronald Jarrett on December 18, 1974. Tommy had dated Ronald's sister and had beaten her up, prompting Ronald to threaten to kill him. When Tommy heard about the threat, he went to the brother's apartment and knocked on the door. He opened the door and punched him in the face. DeSimone then shot him between the eyes. DeSimone would strike again by killing Parnell Edwards. Tommy was a good friend of Edwards, but was disappointed when he failed to get rid of the truck used in the LaFonza heist, where the evidence should have
Can't
been
be late to
destroyed.
your own
When
funeral.
Tommy was told by a high-ranking Made member that he could become a Made man if he carried out this hit, Tommy agreed. Once he found out where Edwards was hiding, he visited him and shot him 6 times in the chest and head with a silencer pistol. With the murders adding up, the heat on the Goodfellas started to rise. Already back in 1970, Paulie began to come under greater scrutiny from the FBI for being connected to the crew, amongst other things. Since the
I
late
want to zip this forward
1978,
just
he
a
was
little
sentenced
bit to around, where was it? Right around
possible
here.
execution by the mafia or going to prison for his crimes. His testimony led to almost 50 convictions.
So this is the part where Henry Hill flipped.
According to Hill, a search warrant for Robert's lounge was granted by a judge. But by the time the police arrived, Jimmy had already relocated the bodies he'd had buried there, such as those of Dominic Remo Cersani and Spider, a Robert's lounge bartender, who was shot to death by Tommy, as mentioned earlier. Partially as a result of the testimony of Henry and Werner, Jimmy Burke was taken into custody on April 1, 1980, on suspicion of a number of
Mine's
crimes.
for everybody.
In
Mine's all
1982,
around.
he was convicted of fixing Boston College basketball games as part of a point-shaving gambling scam in 1978. He was sentenced to 20 years. Jimmy protested that he gave the little bastard, meaning Henry Hill, some bucks to bet on games, and that's it. Authorities knew he had planned and organized the LaFonza heist. However, they did not have enough evidence to prove it in a court of law. Although Burke was suspected of committing more than 20 murders, he was only convicted of one, the murder of Richard Eaton, a hustler and confidence man. If he had disposed of Eaton the same way he disposed of most of his victims, Burke could have been a free man before he died. Instead, he beat and strangled Eaton to death, then dumped the body on
Check
the
out
floor
the
of an
sweet
abandoned
vintage
garbage lot in
Adidas
Brooklyn.
V-neck.
It was winter at the time, and his frozen body wasn't discovered until days later by children playing there. Detectives found a small address book on him, with Jimmy Burke's name in it. Burke was later charged with the murder of Eaton, based on evidence Henry Hill gave to authorities. At the trial, Hill took the stand and testified against his former friend. Hill testified Eaton had convinced Burke to invest $250,000 in a cocaine deal that promised immense profit. However, Eaton kept the money for his own use. At one point, when Henry asked Jimmy about Eaton's whereabouts, observing that he hadn't been around in a while, Jimmy replied, "Don't worry about him. I whacked the swindler out." Burke also told Hill that this would be a lesson to anyone who had not paid him his money. Based on the evidence of Burke's name, address and phone number found in Eaton's coat lining, when his body was found, along with Henry Hill's testimony, Jimmy Burke was convicted, and on February 19, 1985, he was given a life sentence. When he was leaving New York on an airplane, he looked down at JFK Airport and said to an officer, "Once upon a time, that was all mine." Burke was serving his time in Went Correctional Facility in Alden, New York. He developed lung cancer and he died from this disease on April 13, 1996, at age 64, while being treated at Roswell Park Cancer Institute in Buffalo, New York. Jimmy's sons, Frank James Burke, was found by police shot to death on May 18, 1987, at 1043 Liberty Avenue, in the Cypress Hills section of Brooklyn, at 2:30 in the morning. He was 27 years old.
Well, guys, that lets you know you live by the gun. You and your family will certainly die by the gun. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Mafia Monday. So I hope you're going to join me next week. Make sure you hit those notifications, hit that like button before you go. And if you are not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to this page. Thank you so much for coming out and joining me. We're going to be coming on a couple more nights this week. I've got some other stuff coming up. I've got 5 NSA programs that you should know about coming up. We're going to do a little rewind and retrospective of some of what Robert David Steele had said before. We're going to do some of that. And we're going to bring on the Alethea Project, a.k.a. TAP, onto the show with Will. So everybody's going to be coming on. We're going to jump on here. And we're going to talk about some stuff with Michael Jaco. And, you know, we're going to just bat it around and have a good time. All right? So I want you guys to enjoy yourself. Have a good night. Love each other because, shit, man. What the fuck else are you going to do? All right? Full send.
The truth set you free.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I really do appreciate it. From the Pineapple to the Big Apple, from Maine to Spain, wherever you are in the world. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Please share, like,
In an age
comments.
of universal deceit, telling the truth.
I'm climbing back up the YouTube mountain
Revolutionary act.
to the very tippy top. And I need your help to do it. So make sure you're liking it. Share this with some people. Let them know it goes on every Monday. We got a lot to talk about on this channel. Next week, we'll figure out what we're doing. It's either going to be Vinny the Chin or the California Mafia with Nancy Pelosi. Vote in the comments. Let me know what you want to hear. I wrote this. Thank you so much for joining me.